My memo tonight is about the killings, abuse, and neglect of the most vulnerable in society, children. I'll start with a quote from the 38th Vice President of the United States, Herbert Humphrey, who once said that the moral test of government is how that government treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, those who are in the twilight of life, the elderly, and those who are in the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped. Traditionally, children are a blessing, a joy, a source of celebration, pride, and of course, lots and lots of love. And their welfare is the obligation of every adult member of the society, whether relative or not. In years past, every older hand was a safe hand for every child. Care of children and the obligation to protect them was a universally shared value. It was common for a child to be punished in correction by the neighbor if found being mischievous, and this would be well received by the child's parents. But now the child is an endangered species, tossed and crushed at every turn. And what is worse is that it is all in the hands of people familiar to the children, people who abuse the trust of children to assault, injure, and in some cases kill the innocent souls. Earlier this month, a man from Elgeyo Marakwet shot dead his 3 children and injured another 3 and ran away. A couple of days later, relatives hunted him down and killed him. Several days later, a 7-year-old boy was stabbed several times and left to die by unidentified people in Matungu, Kakamega County. 2 days ago, a 13-year-old girl was kidnapped from her home in Nyaura village in Kisii County and her body found the next day in a nearby river. Still in Kisii, a 9-month-old baby was found buried in an abandoned latrine near his parents' home. Investigations into this gruesome incident are ongoing. Evidence that the society is slowly letting down its most vulnerable was also clear when a report dubbed Status of Drugs and Substance Abuse Among Primary Pupils in Kenya 2019 was released by NACADA. The findings were staggering. Children as young as 4 years old, yes, 4 years old, are being exposed to drugs and other substances. A majority of them are puffing tobacco, chewing miraa, and drinking alcohol. If a 4-year-old child, probably in nursery school, is able to access these substances, then what kind of society are we? It is every adult's responsibility to look out for a child and protect, or at the very least, do no harm to them. Because they look up to adults as their saviors, with unadulterated trust. They believe adults have the answers they need. They believe they are safe in the hands of adults. They hope for no less. We owe them no less. For as the great Nelson Mandela once said, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children. And that's the memo.
On my kicker tonight, I would like to discuss 2 drinks, water and wine. Now, this week, Kenyans have been told a lot about the public wage bill. They have been told how costly it has become to run the public service and specifically to remunerate civil servants. But what they have not been told about is the wastage and the sheer misappropriation of public funds. They are being given only one side of the story. I therefore feel duty-bound to tell you that other side of the story. First, those preaching water to the public are drinking wine in long glasses, and while at it, they toast to their health, prosperity, and that of their families. Those preaching water would dare not tell Kenyans about the fine wine that is their hefty perks, allowances, and other benefits for the political elite headed to retirement. They will not mention that it's such a lucrative career to be a retired Speaker of the National Assembly or Senate, a send-off package of nearly 14 million shillings, and a monthly pension of just over $500,000, and then a house allowance of about 173,000. You can only toast to that with a good glass of wine. Those preaching water will not tell Kenyans that the retired speakers, 3 of them, are an addition to a growing number of former state officers enjoying an all-expenses-paid lifetime treat from the taxpayers. They will not tell you about the medical cover, the domestic staff, secretaries, messengers, personal assistants, and other palace courtiers that will serve them chilled wine as they preach water. They'll not tell you about a rogue parliament on a headlong rush to admit 416 16 of their own into the club of wealthy, wine-drinking and water-preaching political elite. They'll not even have the courtesy of informing Kenyans when they pay themselves heavy house allowances. The water preachers crying about the public wage bill will also not tell Kenyans anything about some curious layer added into government going by the name Chief Administrative Secretaries, CAS. The position is not recognized in the Constitution, and I bet no one outside or even inside government would swear that they know what a Chief Administrative Secretary does or what purpose they serve. When he named a bunch of former election losers into the position, President Kenyatta explained that the Chief Administrative Secretaries would, quote, broadly be responsible for helping the cabinet secretaries to coordinate running of affairs of respective ministries. No one can tell what exactly that means, as ministries are also staffed substantively by principal secretaries, former permanent secretaries, PSS. And their roles have been broad indeed, from attending political rallies and funerals to absolute obscurity for a majority of them. The sense of misplacement is all too apparent. Their role is neither political nor that of technocrats. That's the proverbial dilemma of a bat between birds and animals. Those preaching water will also not tell you that it costs taxpayers money to retain that amorphous, virtually cabinet-level position. That is the other side of the wage bill story. A classical case of doing what I say, not what I do. The water preachers will not even provide enough of the water they want us to drink. When we think we are talking about to get the dams that would give us the water, they steal the money. And in the meantime, they imbibe their fine wine way into their retirement and tossed away. That's my kicker.
Some water and some wine too. And you see, now tonight, let us talk about the unending sibling rivalry in Parliament. You see, the National Assembly and the Senate, or is it the Senate and the National Assembly, are at it again. This time, catfights are heading to court yet again. At the heart of these persistent quarrels is this one question: which is the bigger house? Senators have resolved to head to court next week to challenge the constitutionality of 15 laws and 83 bills passed by the National Assembly without their approval. The National Assembly, on the other hand, has often insisted that the Senate should concern itself with devolved functions and stop meddling on national government matters. You see, these two houses could not even agree on the division of revenue bill that defines the amount of money to be allocated between the national government and county governments in the 2019-2020 financial year. Now, I will not even engage in the debate of who is bigger or which house is superior or which chamber is the upper or lower house. And probably many Kenyans don't care either. In any case, who or what should determine the bigger or smaller, upper or lower chamber in the august house? I dare say efficiency of parliamentarians and the quality of legislations churned by each house should make it easy for Kenyans to determine who is working and who is not, and maybe which house has upper members or lower members, purely on account of quality. These two chambers of parliament share a compound, in fact a building. The offices of the two speakers, Justin Muturi in the National Assembly and Ken Lusaka in the Senate, are meters apart. Where can these two speakers, together with other leaders in the chambers, sit, share a cup of tea and iron out their issues? Where should taxpayers' money be used in legal fees to fund an ego conflict between members in the two chambers? Are there no better ways to spend the hard-earned national revenue? Is it an honorable thing for members of parliament to drop the stop the dishonorable ways of quarrels and do what Kenyans at the ballot in August 2017 assigned them to do? To represent them, to make laws, and hold the national and county governments to account on management of public resources. Let me ask you a question. Does it matter to you which house is upper or lower? Well, for me, I don't care. What I care is how well these lawmakers do their job. That to me is more important.
On my take tonight, I want to take you to Tanzania. And I'll take you back a few years to 2013, when a deal was signed between Tanzania and China's largest port operator, China Merchant Holdings International. The deal was to build what would have been East Africa's largest port in Bagamoyo, 75 kilometers east of Dar es Salaam. A port so big that it would have dwarfed even the one we have here in Mombasa. It was to cost $10 million. This agreement was entered during the term of former President Jakaya Kikwete. But why has it taken so long to build this port? Well, one name for you. Current President John Pombe Magufuli, a man widely known as the bulldozer because of his tough stance, but also because of his record while serving in the Ministry of Works, not once, but twice. You see, President Magufuli came into office, looked at the deal, and hesitated. What followed has been years of renegotiation between the two entities, with Tanzania terming the conditions as, quote, commercially unviable. The Tanzanian Port Authority Director General even going so far as to say, and I quote, they shouldn't treat us like school kids and act like our teachers, end quote. Just this week, it all came to a head, with President Magufuli bringing the 6-year talks to an end. Now, for all the conversations about President Magufuli, on this one, he has chosen the high road. The road of being open with his people. Being honest to his people about the details of a deal. The people whose responsibility it would have been to pay the $10 million to build a port. It costs nothing to be open. It costs nothing to be accountable to the people who put you in power. After all, everything a president does in office is, at least in theory, done in the name of the people and for the benefit of the people. Here in Kenya, things couldn't be more different. To date, Kenyans have no idea exactly what the government has done with the numerous loans we get from time to time, such as the first Eurobond. Some of the repayment terms of these loans remain under lock and key as official state secrets that lesser mortals known as citizens have no business knowing. President Kenyatta himself is yet to make public the full details of the SGR contract, in spite of a very public promise he made on national television 6 months ago. It surely shouldn't be too difficult. Or are we missing something? And that is my take tonight.
Now, on my angle, tonight I will talk about what I see as a dangerous trend, the bandwagon politics that could take the country back many years to that ugly past. Almost a week ago, several leaders gathered in Kisumu County for what was to be a solemn interment of the mother of the county's governor, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. The president was in attendance, so was the ODM leader Raila Odinga, and so were scores of other leaders, including members of parliament, mainly drawn from ODM. There was, of course, politics, which is now almost a minimum requirement for any average Kenyan funeral. And so it is not the mere presence of politics at that funeral that I want to talk about, but rather the particular kind of politics that dominated the ceremony. A section of ODM legislators appeared to be asking the president to do a miracle. That is, to decide for all of us, all 45 million of us, who would be the 5th president of the great Republic of Kenya. Speaker after speaker appeared to be prodding the president to name his successor, or in Kenyan parlance, anoint one. I will not go as far as suggest that it was Raila Odinga they had in mind. That may well have been their point. But in any case, it really does not matter. What is unacceptable is the very idea that somehow the president should be playing this role of deciding, anointing, or in any way actively shepherding us towards a particular candidate. Now, I'm not naive, so I know that the president is a powerful individual given the office he holds. He also has a right to campaign for someone if he wishes, but to plant this idea in his head that he should somehow preoccupy himself with deciding for us who becomes the next president is to be exceedingly and unnecessarily sycophantic. It is a mindset that keeps many an African president in power for generations, imagining that the country would collapse without them. Some of the MPs in the Kisumu event even went as far as prescribing to the president what qualities they should ensure his successor has, such as commitment to the fight against corruption. I shudder to imagine what would happen if the president took their advice seriously and somehow decided that he, himself, Uhuru Kenyatta, were the best person to continue his war on corruption. Are these MPs suggesting that as Kenyans we are not able to identify the qualities we want in the next president? Who told them that it is corruption that we are more concerned about? You see, a retiring president has many things to worry about. Why would we want to burden him with a responsibility that we can collectively so effectively execute at the ballot? If the voters decide to elect someone who will dismantle everything the current president has built, it would perfectly be within their democratic right. After all, that is why people go for elections every 5 years, to either endorse ongoing programs or reject them totally by electing someone who would do something totally different. Oh, and by the way, the last time an outgoing president anointed a presumed successor, the grand plan went awfully wrong. Just ask President Uhuru Kenyatta. That is my angle tonight.
Interesting. So tomorrow, all eyes on Eldoret?
Yes.
Focusing on the rift.
Yes, focusing on the rift.
The
Stephen
rift and the
Leto
rift.
is there, so
Yep.
let's see what happens there. It will be interesting.